Hey, welcome back to another episode of Vibe Coding with Matt. Everything I do on the channel is all organic. I'm more interested in getting the information across quickly to move on to the next thing. I've got so much to share, and I can't get too hung up on the production side of things as much as I'd like to. But once the channel grows and we can get more resources on board, you can look forward to seeing the quality in all respects, not just the production, but everything, the cameras, the audio, everything's going to improve. Welcome back. Last time, here's what we came up with. If I go to Claude, or Claude, as I like to call him sometimes, the French version, Claude basically made this neat little, I don't know if you call it a landing page. It's a full website. It's a full one-pager website that scrolls with anchors. So rather than go to a separate page, it's all self-contained here. I really like it. It's exactly what we asked for. Last time I also mentioned, I don't know if it followed the framework, but it actually did. If we take another look at the framework that we provided for it, or rather the wireframe, it's got the logo, it's got the menu, it's got the hero section, it's got the button. It did exactly what we wanted it to do. And this is pretty standard stuff. If AI in 2025 doesn't know how to do this type of website for people, I don't know what the hell's going on. It's not doing its job, because this is a very common approach. Now, I noticed that it didn't incorporate some of the menu items that I would have liked, such as the shop. There's no shop, no social, no about. These can be changed, and we'll maybe rethink that and come back to it. But I love how it knew somehow, like, I love that. The menu items, how the little underline thing comes out, like a little subtle, low-key kind of animation. That's exactly what I wanted. See, even the buttons, they're not flashy. It's a very simple button style, and that's effective. These eventually, if people wanted to know more, could be clickable. Right now, I'm not too concerned about it. This typical 1, 2, 3 process, you do that all the time. Become an artist for people that want to actually partner with us. Some stats, a big footer for some reason, I don't know why. I haven't even really looked at it. Some of that's a little overkill, but we can adjust. I'd rather it give me more to work with than not enough. So there it is. Now, one very important thing when you're coding in general, okay, is to, let's use this for our example. Now, you have to verify always, what does it look like on this monitor? Let me just show you so you can see the difference. Here it is on the 4K monitor. This is Aura GIFs on 4K. Now, if I drag it down below and I switch to the bottom monitor, look how different it looks on this screen. See what I mean? If I bring it up on my phone, it's going to look even different, more different there. It's way different, because it's everything's like in one column. Everything's centered. So a lot of this involves not just troubleshooting, but testing, and thorough testing. If you don't have the patience for that, you probably shouldn't be doing this yourself. You should probably just save up some money and hire somebody or partner with somebody, give somebody a stake or equity in your company that will handle this stuff for you, because trust me, you're going to need a tremendous amount of patience, resiliency, and tenacity. It's grueling. To be honest with you, like, to be a little vulnerable and to share personal detail with you, over the last week, just to accomplish a lot of these coding and builds and things that I've been working on in projects, I've had to flip my schedule, and I'm up mostly at night doing these things, sleeping during the day. It's not ideal for everybody. And that's not to say you have to do it that way. It's a very involved process, but like with all things, it can be balanced in such a way that's harmonious to your life. Last time we also loaded it up in Content Creator Machine, which I had explained is a one-stop shop type of service. It does all kinds of things, including websites and JavaScript and custom HTML code snippets. And that's how we're doing our website. Traditionally, you would build it as a web builder, right? Let's say I wanted to build a course online. I would build it in parts and bring in different elements, and everything would be drag and drop and very easy for anybody to use, as any web builder would be. In this case, we're actually developing our site as a full HTML site. We only need the code snippet here. This is the only element. If I look at my page, there's only one section, and below that section there's only one column, which is our custom code. That's how these things are nested here and layered. This is a roundabout way of coding, but it works, right? And it's because we've paid for the subscription, we have all of the bells and whistles, might as well use them. A lot of these services like the website builders and hosting and file storage, why not use it? So here you can see what we came upon last time, right before we ended, which is the preview on Content Creator Machine is different. And I've seen this time and time again. So you can't base this on what is the final product going to look like, because it's not representative of that. So I'm almost thinking that we don't use Content Creator Machine for that reason, and we just develop straight on what it will actually look like. And there's another way of doing this. The other way that you can do this is with another service for static pages called Hostinger. It's a bit more advanced in some ways than Content Creator Machine. This will allow us to actually manipulate the FTP server directly, and you probably could do that with Content Creator Machine, but this one just makes it a whole lot easier, and I don't have the same issues with the weird preview window when we're setting it up on the temporary server. There is a temporary domain created on hosting. The hosting is active, the domain is temporary. As far as the files go, I'm going to go to our files under File Manager. I was experimenting to see if I could do full stack here, but unfortunately it's just basic pages. I can actually delete this. We can use this temporary site here to load up our files. So all I'm going to do is find our notepad. There it is. I'll grab this from Claude and bring it over to Notepad+. Another way to do that, I'll just close this, go back to Claude, and I'll just download an actual HTML. So when Claude builds for you, he'll give you the option to download the actual HTML. I'm going to right click on the HTML file and edit with Notepad. It'll open it up and set the correct language, which should be set to HTML. There's our code. We're going to create a new folder called Greencraft, and we'll save this one there. Always save the original file untouched, so you can always come back to it if you need to. For it to recognize as our home page, it'll have to be called index.html. So for our testing purposes, let's do that. Minimize this. Go back to our file manager, and in the public HTML folder, I'm going to drop Greencraft index file. There we go. Done. Now if I go back here, where was that? There's the site. If I click on this, it should be live, and there it is. Notice how with Hostinger, it looks pretty darn close to what Claude came up with. It's showing a little bit of green at the bottom, but that's not a big deal. We can adjust that. How does it look on 1080p? Fits perfectly. I'm actually going to leave it. You want the whole header to appear on any screen, no matter if it's mobile, 4K, 1080p, laptop screen, a tablet, whatever it is, full header. And if I go to F12 here, we might be able to even test that. The different devices. Yeah. See? If this was a Galaxy Z Fold 5, it's all on one screen. If it was an iPhone 12 Pro, all on one screen. If it was a tablet, is there a tablet in here? Responsive, let's say. Now we can actually play with it. One of the things I wanted to test as well is, does it go to the hamburger menu when it gets small? Yes, it does. So when it gets to about the size of a tablet, it defaults to the hamburger menu, and it's now tap instead of click, which is exactly what you want. Still tapping, still tapping, still tapping. Okay, I guess the whole thing's tapping, but still tap or click, whatever. And it looks like it's resizing perfectly. And that's smaller than you would ever get. You get the idea. Use like the smallest phone you can think of and test on that. Then you can be pretty sure. See, even this one here, iPhone SE, for some reason now it's not all showing up on one page. I don't know why that is. But see, I wouldn't worry about this too much. We could adjust the padding here later on in our final stages of review, but otherwise this looks fine. All of this is resizing. It's all loading. It's called lazy load. So it only loads when it needs to. Whenever the user scrolls to that section, it'll load. A preliminary investigation reveals success. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go back to the regular view, responsive, and let's stretch it out. Take another look at it. Now I'm starting to think of how can we refine it even more. Do I want to add 2 extra steps here maybe? Do I want to take one away? Do I want to change the wording on anything? Now I'm starting to look at the copy. For me, I don't like M dashes in there because it's a clear indication of AI involvement, and I don't like it to be obvious. Everybody uses AI, yes, but we don't have to use the exact language that it provides for us. And in a lot of instances, it's garbage. Let's just say it how it is. It's not good. So we can't just copy and paste from AI. All of this copy is going to get scrutinized. It's going to get reviewed, refined, and edited accordingly so that it reflects my desires and my goals, my mission for the company, for the business. And I like how it's talking about the environmental impact. Here's the mission part. I didn't notice that was our mission. The anchors are a little screwy. I'd like that to be a little higher so it centers better. Not that big a deal, but still. Those are some refinements we can make. Okay, so the contact is in the footer, which is weird. Do I have a big need for some fancy contact page or an embedded Google form? Is that really necessary for this type of business? Greencraft Collective is very long. I'd like it to be shorter, so we'll have to look for a domain. Greencraft.com would be amazing. Probably not available, but we'll see. We'll get to all that in the next episode. I think we can actually move forward with this, and I'm glad we switched over to Hostinger because it looks a lot better. The next thing I'd like to work on, just for me, this is my process. It's not necessarily the order you want to go, but I'm going to fix the copy first and just refine this a little bit. I don't like orphan words, and I like the paragraphs to be basically the same size. So I'll probably go with something around this size of a paragraph and aim to have around the same amount of words or spacing on all these orphan words. Just drive me nuts. I know if you resize, it's going to change it anyway. I just like to have the same kind of consistency. That's what I'm aiming for. A consistent, cohesive experience across the website. Here again, I might refine this a little bit. It's getting to be 4 lines. That's a bit long. If I'm going to take up a 4th line, I might as well use the entire space. It's a bit wordy, but we'll see. There was another big one that I want to work on. These cards should be a different color than the background, so I might look at that. And then finally, just test all the buttons, make sure everything's worked, make sure it's all going to the right place where I want it to. Become an artist partner. There's a good spot for a contact form, right? I want to know a little bit about the artist before I meet with them. Learn our story could go to an about page, a separate about page. So this is actually well laid out, and I don't think we need extra menu items because of the buttons. And this is a bit of an unusual site in that we're not really calling people to an action necessarily, other than just reaching out to us if they want to partner with us. But we're not trying to sell them. So does it make sense to have a store right now? Maybe not. Maybe we're just about the fulfillment of this and not necessarily the delivery of the final product. But let's keep developing as we go. That's what vibe coding is all about. And it's really vibe entrepreneurship is what it is. It's more than just coding, as you can see. All right, and I'm also going to work on a logo. Why don't we do that first, just because that's the fun part that everybody likes to see and play with. I know I do. So let's see if we can come up with a good logo, and I'll show you how I work with Nano Banana to pull that off. So this is Nano Banana. This is based on Google AI Studio, so Gemini. It's running Gemini 2.5 Flash image. Under advanced settings, you can select different aspect ratios. You're better off to give it a reference image if you want it to match an exact aspect ratio or certain dimensions, because otherwise you'll get off the rails real quick. This is another app where you want to make sure you start a new chat and refresh often enough. Now it's temporary chat here because I don't have my account logged in. Maybe before we start fooling around with any logo AI image generation, we'll actually think of what we want our logo to actually include, which is probably a good idea. I don't know if I want it to have recycling arrow thingies. Maybe we want it to have a separate message or idea. And this is where you can go back to the drawing board, and let's ask ChatGPT this time, just for fun. See what it says. Help me think of ideas for a logo for the following business. The nice part is with these is you can just drop your whole code in there. It'll understand. It'll scan the whole code and figure out what your business is. Okay. Yeah, see, I got it right away. So we're going to want elements of Nature, circular economy, I don't know. I actually don't want that. So I'm going to tell it to not include that. Nature's fine, but I don't want those arrow things. Like, I don't want to be associated with recyclers necessarily. Partnering with them, yes, but associated, no. Craft plus transformation, yes. Community and collective, but just not this. Maybe a more of a spiral instead. Minimalist word mark option. Greencraft Collective is clean, modern type with one letter transformed. C in Craft as a circular arrow leaf. And O in Collective as a jar leaf motif. Maybe we could try circular emblem logo with a stylized jar tin bottom. I want it to not include this though. A circle shaped logo, not, let's just put this as a reference. I don't want to incorporate any of this type of imagery. Partnering with them, yes, but not, I don't want those visuals to appear on my logo or on my site. Artistry emerging from nature, jar container. Exactly, the recycling triangle. I'm going to specify this. It's a desire to stay in the private market enterprise and not get involved with any government or public sector organizations. Not just for the logo, for all business operations. This business will be run strictly in the private and will not be affiliated or otherwise associated with any public servers or regulators. Exactly. Since this is the case, I don't want any circle, triangle, recycle symbols, which is probably their design. This is getting into more of the legal side of things, which we don't really need to consider in this video. But just to give you an idea of how much is involved in considering all of the different options. Because obviously your site, and thank goodness for AI, if I go back to my example here, wherever it is. Anyway, we'll look at this one for now. But it's got a legal section somewhere, right? Or it should. This massive footer doesn't even include a legal section. So it's got to have a legal section with terms of service, with privacy statement, with copyright notice, the whole kit and caboodle. If you look at aura.gifs, I'm pretty sure that was one of the first things I did. Nope, not on this one. If we look at your expert voice, I'm pretty sure that's one of the first things I did. See legal, terms of service, privacy statement, copyright, and that opens on a separate page, right? Has everything that, at least some basic liability coverage. Get something in place. You can always refine it later, but having nothing, risky. So that's one thing to note. I don't know if we'll cover that on this series or not, but definitely make sure that you have all three of these things at the very least, and make sure that they're built out, preferably put it in front of a lawyer if you can afford to do such a thing, especially if you're incorporated and not operating in the private. You're definitely, if you're participating in any public sector or incorporation, going to want to put this in front of a lawyer, unless you're somehow well versed in legal matters. Okay, so that aside, let's see if we can have Chat make us a nice nano banana prompt. You might be asking yourself, why am I having one AI help me with another AI? It makes a big difference, believe it or not. So start with the most rudimentary of all, which is ChatGPT. No offense, ChatGPT. It's just facts. Please create me a nano banana prompt for a logo, a clean, sleek logo that would nicely encapsulate the core of this business. Necessarily have to include the company name, but it wouldn't hurt. Now here's a little code I could put in just so that it knows to put these on separate lines. Let's try this. This means line break. Technically it's going to look like if the collective was right below Greencraft. Let's see what it does, or if it thinks that's the name. It'll be funny to see. Alright, let's start with that and see what kind of prompt it comes up with, and we can always refine it from there. So here's the prompt. Clean, modern logo design for Green Craft Collective, a private enterprise. It didn't put in the BR there. That's good. That means it probably won't include it, though. Private enterprise focused on craftsmanship, sustainability, and innovation in materials. Avoid all recycling symbols, government-style icons, or public sector imagery. The design should be sleek, minimal, and professional, evoking trust, exclusivity, and timeless quality. Explore geometric shapes, abstract, natural motifs like leaf veins. I don't mind the rest of the logo, though. Okay, so it actually did it that time. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'd like it to be zoomed in more, but I could do that myself. In fact, let's use this opportunity to actually do that. So let's use this as just our working logo, so we don't spend too much time on this. That actually, it's nice. It's minimalistic, and it's got an interesting color palette that we can use on the site. It's perfect. It's got the charcoal, the green, the sort of yellowish, brownish color. Let's see. So we've got it downloaded. I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm not recommending that you do this, but you can, is the point. Now, see down here? Let's increase our brush to 20. See that down there? There's a number of different ways you can fix this, but I like to use this tool. This is pixelcut.ai/generative-fill, and it's gone. Watermark, gone. Just saying. Now this is actually not white, which is a problem. So what we can do with the same tool is actually remove the background. There you have it. Now it should be a PNG transparent. Only got 2 more downloads, but you can run this in a private tab. And you know what? Let's have it zoom in before we do anything. Zoom in by 200%. Let's give it a real number and see what it does. And this is all part of vibe coding, folks. If you think you're not going to do a little bit of graphic design, a little bit of copy, a little bit of project management, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you are mistaken. It involves a whole bunch. What is that? It put a 200% in the corner. Very strange what it just did. Alright, so here's what I'll do. When it does stuff like that, you just start over. And I'll take the most recent picture, which is the one that we just downloaded from Pixelcut. We're going to say zoom in on this. Let's try some other wording. Make it bigger. Make it way bigger. If I put 10 times bigger, it's not going to know. It's going to put a 10x on the screen or something. That did nothing. Okay. That did nothing. Try again. Make the whole logo very big. An arbitrary saying. Very big. What does that mean for an AI? It doesn't know. I don't see a difference. So let's start over again. And I want to make sure I'm using the right one. I want the transparent one here. Let's go to Photo P, and I don't know why it's all wonky on the left side there. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to spend any time troubleshooting that stuff, but that might also be part of your workflow. So let's load this up, and we're just going to blow it up, even though this is going to degrade the quality a little bit. This is not the ideal way of doing things. We could also crop it. Let's do that instead. Instead of blowing it up, let's just crop this so that it's... Oh, not that one. Maybe they've changed their buttons or something here, I swear. What I was using before is not working. Why is that? There we go. So now, no, that's not right. Oh, I think I got it. So it's now Alt-Shift to maintain the aspect ratio. That's weird. What was wrong with just Alt? Okay, so this looks off a bit. Oh, I see. The collective is centered under the R and the F. So I'm going to have to factor that into my spacing here. You don't want too much padding, but then not enough is bad also for different reasons. So I'm going to go right about there. And it is off to the left, which is bugging me. But I can't change that because if I moved it over, then the whole thing's going to get thrown off. So what I could do, and this again falls into more graphic design territory, I could center the whole thing here instead and just cut this. Yeah, that should fix it. Although I can't work with my tools on the right here. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, let's just work with that. That's fine for now for our testing purposes. We'll export that as a PNG. Looks like it's only 500 by 588, which is nothing. Let's just call it Greencraft logo. Transparent. Now here's where I'm going to go back to Content Creator Machine because I want to use their media storage, which is very handy. So that is app.content creator machine, and I think that's under site. No, media storage, right there. So I'm going to take my logo. We should be in our working folder here, so I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab all of them actually. We can always put them in an archive after when we're done. And I'm just going to cut those and put them in Greencraft. There we go. And our logo is here, the one that was blown up. Still square, looks nice, not too degraded, and neatly centered. I actually like it the way it is. Greencraft being off like that, I would be okay with it, but for some reason I am, and I don't know why. Everything else is centered though, that's probably why. The way that the collective is centered between the G and the T just feels right. It's a feeling thing. It's not logical. I've copied the link for it. You can host this logo file wherever. If you don't know how to do this, you can number of different options. Now I've got the link, so I'm going to paste that in my text in my HTML file. We're just going to page down until we find the logo. So here's the logo right there. There's no image here for us to use. It's simply a text logo. Let's just grab the whole header, because it's just a little bit of code anyway. And most of the time HTML, especially if you're generating with AI, will be nicely labeled like this. These are notes for you that don't actually appear anywhere on the website. They're simply hidden notes, which is denoted by the arrow and the exclamation in green. Those are your notes to tell you where the sections are. It's intuitive once you learn a little bit. If you took a basic course or watched some videos on HTML, you'd pick up on this like nothing. Okay, so that means that we have to pop over to, let's use Claude because Claude's current on what we're doing here. I just noticed this, nature-inspired colors that feel grounded, not stoner. So there's not going to be a bunch of kaleidoscope effects and rainbows everywhere and tie-dye? Is that what you're saying? Okay, so how do I... This is a good example. Like, I know how to do this, but I want to teach you how to work with the AI to do your coding. This is how you do it. How do I take this header and make the logo an image? Let's make it a clickable image. And it'll understand exactly what to do with this. It might even give you the whole code, or it might actually build it into your code like it just did. Okay, so there it is. The reason it's not showing up is, first of all, we haven't associated a link with what picture to use, so it doesn't know what picture to use. And the other thing is, in the preview, it doesn't show links like this, so it won't show anyway. Now, it made some adjustments to other parts of the code. I don't remember if we did any changes here. I don't think we did, so I think we're safe to copy all of this, the new code that it just made for us, and just pop it in here like that. And now that we've done that, we can just save it. We're going to go back to our file repository here, our FTP, and replace that index file. There are apps where you're going to develop all your code locally, and then you only copy over once at the very end when you're done. Did we get signed out here? It says I don't have permission. So that's probably because we got signed out. The session time on this for security reasons is very low, so that's probably what happened. Yep, that's exactly what happened. Alright, so let's try that again. But you wouldn't do this every time you make a change. Even before, I was copying and pasting from Notepad+ to Content Creator Machine. There's all kinds of programs out there that'll let you code and visually see your code and interpret your code at the local level before you transfer any files over. You just do that at the very end when you're done. Maybe a couple passes of testing and stuff, and then it just makes more sense that way. Your workflow just makes more sense. There it is. Now we can go back to Content Creator Machine file storage, grab our link again, find our new logo, and you'll see the difference. This is where you learn coding. It changed the text logo to an image tag with the source. The source is your link. The alt means the alternative text. If the image can't be displayed, you'll hear alt text for people with accessibility concerns. Their screen readers might say Greencraft Collective logo, and they'll know what that picture is because they can't obviously see it. So that's important to have that there. Now, the image source is different than the link. href, the ahref, is a link. So this is saying if the image wasn't here, just to show you, abc.com. Don't look that up. This would make a clickable link called www.abc.com. If I back up now, you'll see that instead of a conventional text-based link, our link is not text, it's an image. What image? Look in the source. This image, the one we just copied from Content Creator Machine, and alt text we just talked about. So that's going to make us a logo that is clickable, that's to the home page. Until we have somewhere to Easter egg. Easter egg just means some little surprise when you click on it. Oh, it goes to the troll video, or whatever. It could go to your calendar, your Calendly. That's usually what I do. So it's an Easter egg, but it's also professional at the same time. Until then, we'll just leave it as the home page. So if we have the logo somewhere else, people can just click on that, and it'll be the same as the home button. It'll be the same as clicking on this. Notice how they both go to the same place. Claude knew that most people do that with the logo. They also make it double as a home button. These other sections, these are called anchors. When you put the hashtag symbol here, followed by home and mission, this is going to go to the different parts on the page. That's how it anchors to it. So anyway, that's a little bit about how that works. But we can test our logo now. I think I'm pretty happy with this. So we're going to save, refresh. When you refresh it, look how small that is. That's not going to work. So when you have a change that's not satisfactory, or anytime you want to experiment with something on the screen, don't forget about your developer tools. There's a couple different ways to find those. So F12 will open those up. That will open up a window. Sometimes it's embedded in your browser. I like to have it on a separate screen since I have two monitors. So I put this on my laptop screen, and then I can manipulate stuff at the top. You can also right-click on any element. Let's say I wanted to change this text. I find it, and just so you can see what I'm doing, I'll bring this up here. This is the hero descriptions. You can actually highlight and hover your mouse elements, and it'll tell you what's what. So if you're just figuring out code, this is a great tool to play around with. You can edit and manipulate anything on any website, unless it's locked out, which is very rare. But let's say here, case in point, I want to make the logo bigger. So I know that the logo is within my header. I'm going to expand my header. I know that the logo is within the navigation menu. It's confirming that if I hover my mouse over it. See how it's highlighting it? That's how you know. And then if I expand the navigation menu, there it is. There's my logo. The actual image. If I expand that further, there's the link which contains the image. If I expand the link more, then it takes me to my image. I want to adjust not the logo container, but the image itself. Notice how the image is stuck to 60 pixels. If I click on this now and I hit up and down, I can adjust as needed. As I make it bigger, notice how it's increasing the padding. As I make the image bigger, it's increasing the associated padding. The padding is not on the image level, so that means it's probably at this level. Now the padding is set to 0, so it's actually not at this level. And if we hover our mouse over, we see there's no padding. If there was padding, you would see it like the green stuff around there. That's the padding, but there's no padding on this. And to further confirm, we go up here to the header's got some serious padding. We can confirm that right here. That's what it looks like without the padding. And we can also confirm it down here. It's showing padding 24, 83 on the sides, and that corresponds to this number. Now, it's good to leave a little bit of padding, but this is probably too much. All right, it's making our logo look pretty weird. Do I still have Photopea open? Yes. So I could fix this potentially by cropping it. Instead of it being square, I could crop it like this, which would shave off a bunch of the padding in the picture itself. But what I find happens when you do it that way is something in the code or in the styling is going to throw it off, and it's going to get all weird, and you're going to have to fix that. It creates more problems. So the best thing to do here is probably just adjust the header padding, because honestly there is a lot of space there, probably too much for my liking anyway. So we could even just reduce that down to 0.5 rem. Is a value that is adjusted based on the size of the screen. It's more of a percentage based unit, just like this here. I'm going to leave that at 5%. I'm not sure what that's controlling exactly, but this doesn't need to be that big. And certainly I think at 0.5, if we then come back and adjust our image to a higher number, like if we bring it back to the width that it was before but with a bigger logo, that might work. Let's say 100. That's a good logo size. Now let's go back and take a quick look. And let's also look at it with 1080p. Yeah, it could be bigger. And let me look and see what else we can do without nitpicking here and getting too granular with it. Let's see what else we can do. So there's no padding there. This is good practice. No padding here. Now we're into the links, so we don't want to go that far. There's padding here, but not at the top and bottom. So here's what we're going to try. I'm going to try a combination of both. And let's just see what sort of results it gives. I don't know what it's going to do with a logo that's not square, but I'd rather add the padding in the code if possible rather than in the image. So when I do it in the image, I try to make sure that we have an equal amount of padding around the whole thing. So I'm going to actually change that. And let's change what's going on here? And that's not what we want. Reset. Is there no reset? Anyway, we'll have to do it like this. I don't like doing things manually like this, but it's fine. Okay, so Alt now does this. Maybe that's what I was thinking of, but I swear it was different before. Okay, so I want to leave some padding, but again, I want to try to make it as equal as possible across. Now there's going to be less padding on this side because we want to center our little flower thing, whatever that is, right? So I'm just going to eyeball it, and that's okay. Use your sense of design and judgment. Maybe right about there. That's close enough. Alright, so let's call that good. Decent amount of padding all the way around. I'm going to export this as a PNG, and we're going to call it logo alt greencraft. Really, I should be numbering these. Okay, and let's load this up and test it with this new logo. Pop that sucker in there, and let's see if it does that wonky thing or not. It's making it very big, so I have a feeling it might, but let's just see. Going back to our code with the link, replacing this logo link with the new one. There it is. Saving. Now you can see why working locally makes more sense. Constantly doing this on all changes is a silly use of your time. I can close that, and let's bring this back up here. Refresh, Control F5. I'm not seeing a big difference here. What happened? Did I do that right? Yeah. Let's take a look again and see. Alright, that didn't really make a big difference, so I'm going to take a look here. That's probably because everything got reset. Yeah, you think? Alright, so this needed to be at 100. Your changes don't save, and that's a good thing. Okay, now it's very big. 100 might actually be too big. Let's see. Let's try that and just go with it for now. It's a bit larger than I wanted it to be, but I want to see what it's going to look like with the padding reduced. Okay, bring this back down to 0.5. When you mess with anything padding related, make sure it looks good on all screens. At 0.5, it's actually hitting the edges of the logo. Oh no, it's not. Okay, so 0.5 does leave a little bit of room. It's still quite wide, so let's reduce that down. I'd like it to be smaller. This is where the fine tuning comes into play. Let's bring this down to, let's try 75. That's definitely more reasonable. The logo is not getting wonky, which is good. Now, unfortunately, for whatever reason, the entire hero section is not fitting on 1080p. I think I know why, though. That's not related to the logo. The logo looks good. I can read the letters clearly. Let's test it on mobile just to see. Yeah, it looks good. I like that. Logo that wasn't square worked just fine. It looks very professional, actually. I like it. Alright, so let's call that good. I'm going to save. Oh, it's already saved. Oh no, it's not saved. See, this is the thing of when you modify things locally, you have to remember to copy it to your code, right? So we made some changes here. I have to make sure to copy that over. Logo image, let me show you that so you can learn what we're doing here. Do you see now? This is what's going to take up your time. It's these fine tuning. And yes, you can do it with the AI, but trust me, it's much faster when you know what you're doing. Then AI can help you with stuff where you get stuck. So all we're going to do is just look for dot logo image. There it is. So instead of 60, we're going to change that to 75. And guess what, guys? We're coding. This is actual coding. Header is the next one. Maybe we can just find it here. Header navigation. Yep, so 1.5. We're going to change that to 0.5. And I think that was it. Saved our document. Let's load it back up onto the file server. I think we're getting pretty close to moving on to the next stage here, which is going to be in the next video. Let's close our developer tools. So I want to see what this is going to look like. Final version. That menu is much more reasonable. It's not as wide or tall. The Greencraft logo looks really good. It's got a nice little hover effect and it's clickable. We made sure that just the image is clickable and not the space around it, which can sometimes happen. Hero sections all appearing on 4K and on 1080p. I'm not going to show you, but just take my word for it. It's all appearing beautifully. Now, there's an orphan word both on 1080p and 4K. So if I fix that, which I wanted to tighten up the text anyway, maybe we'll start with that next time. Look at the copy and do a really good run through of all the copy. And then we're almost done. Can you believe that? The next part doesn't take long at all. We're inevitably going to stumble upon tech issues that we're going to have to figure out, troubleshoot. That's going to happen no matter what, whether you're working with the AI or manually or any combination of those two. You're going to have to do some troubleshooting and some debugging. Not a big deal. There's all kinds of tricks for that too, tips and best practices. Yeah, that looks good. There was one thing though that I wanted to change. See, just a little tightening up. We'll do that next time. No legal section in the footer. That's like your final polish basically. But this already looks like a site. Let me see what we're at here in terms of time. Oh, we've got lots of time. All right. You know what we're going to do? DreamHost is usually the cheapest one for me. So let's try DreamHost. And I wonder if Greencraft was available. It's like a 1 in a million chance. Where's my page here? I don't like this view. Sometimes they have a little category here, I thought. See all domain prices. Find a domain extension. No, this is not the view that I'm used to seeing. Maybe because I'm usually logged in. Anyway, we're not really looking at prices right now, so I suppose I could go to GoDaddy. Normally I don't use GoDaddy because they're the most expensive ones, typically. You can use Namecheap or some other domain providers, but let's just, for the search functionality, let's use this. So I want to get as close to Greencraft as possible here. This is a huge part of the business, so it's good that we're spending the remaining time in this video talking about this because it's very important. What I've recently discovered from a guy that buys and sells domains and partners with some of these businesses is a good domain automatically builds authority and credibility. Let's say you had onions.com. If you had that domain, people automatically assume that you're the onion guy. How would you possibly have that domain if you weren't the onion guy? And this dude just goes around finding people that actually aren't the onion guy and either buying their domain or partnering with them so that they become the onion guy and make so much more money. It's brilliant. That is sick, but with a price to match. Craft.green. What about green.craft? Is .craft an extension? No, it looks like it's not. Craft.green though, that's pretty cool. Greencraft. Okay, let's see what else there is here. Greencraft.eco. Expensive, but might be able to find it cheaper. That's a good one, actually. Eco. .net could work. Very expensive though. Geez, all these are very expensive. I've been steering away from the .cas over the past few years. I don't want to be localized in any way because if it becomes an international business, I don't want to be tied to the .ca. And yes, you could just get something else, but better to set it up properly from the start. See, like loved by locals. I don't want to just be loved by locals. At first, yes, it'll be a domestic thing, but the Greencraft Life, greencraft.org, $8,000. Greenercraft, greencraft.live, Greencraft with a K. I despise spellings that have purposeful typos, intentional typos. I just can't stand that. .biz is horrible. It's a horrible extension. Greencraft.ai is pretty decently priced for an AI. Greencraft.tech, greenart.ca. It's not bad. Craft.app. If it were an app, is it an app though? Not really. It's more of a service. It's more of a shop. Greencraft shop. Art would work. It's only $35. That would work. Greencraft.art. That makes sense. I like that one actually. But let's just try green.shop is going to be taken. Greencraft.shop. Greencraft.eco is probably the best one so far, but I don't like the price tag at all, even though it's probably the best one. And there are registration requirements for that one. You probably have to prove that it's an actual eco-friendly business. You have to create an eco profile, although that would lend to some credibility. So let's assume, I'm not going to buy any domains today, but let's assume we're willing to pay the $168. Let me check and see what it would be for fun here on DreamHost. Because that's a really good extension, especially considering it's an eco business. What do you mean, invalid? I don't understand. It's confused by the eco greencraft.com. Their view has changed or something. It looks weird. Alright, let me just try Namecheap. That's another one I use. There's all kinds of them. Surprisingly, this one's not the cheapest one usually. So greencraft.eco. And I'll register. It's an actual eco business, so maybe this is the way to go. Look at that. $72. Renews significantly cheaper. Oh wait, this is Canadian. Let's do the conversion and see. With DreamHost, even the USD to CAD conversion, it was still worth it. So let's see. $72.98 for the first year, and you don't have to renew if your business is not worth it. See, $100. So you would save 60, almost $70 Canadian. Isn't that crazy? Friggin' GoDaddy. Okay, so Namecheap, greencraft.eco, that's fantastic. And at that price for a year, I wouldn't even think twice. A lot of the AI domains are going for this now, if not more. So for an eco, even though you have to do a little bit of registration, who cares? It's pretty much near premium, I would say. It's a near premium domain. Profile and trust mark included, subject to post-registration activation requirements. Promo price applies when registering domains for more than 2 years. Okay, so factor that in. You have to register for at least 2 years with this one. So that means it's not $72 up front, $73. It's actually $150 almost plus tax. So don't forget that. Let's just take another quick look here since we have some time. There's app. $6.98 if it was an app. $6.98. It could be an app, right? Could it? Let's look at what else there is. Online art, a premium for $22. That would be a domain, a subdomain of greencraft.eco. Underneath that, our partner page would be greencraft.art. So for say $160, let's call it $200 even. For $200, you could have two fantastic domains. One of them is eco, which should be a premium somehow for $22. Like, I'm almost tempted to buy it and just sit on it. What else is there? 400 additional. Wow. Yeah, let's try this too, right? Let's just add them too for fun. I don't see any other ones that I really like, so let's just go with that. Boom. And is there an eco category? Is there a art and culture? That's a good one. Try that. Actor, audio, center, channel, dance, desi, fan, fashion. These don't really apply. It's not really that kind of art. This is more like the service of art, or art as a service, as a performance almost. What else? Services. Is there products? Personal, social link, environment. Greencraft.bio, $5, $6. Bio is not the right word. Greencraft.earth. That just sounds cool. Greencraft.energy, Greencraft.green. You got the double green in there. Greencraft.ngo. If it was an NGO, that'd be awesome. $20 for an NGO. Solar, no, it doesn't make sense. And then eco, I just love that one. That eco one's great. So that's what I was doing. If I was actually going to go through with this business and actually developing it for real and not just as a demo, I would probably go with these two. These two domains are fantastic. And although we can't have shop, it doesn't matter. This includes the SSL certificate, I think, as well. It says domain privacy, 1-year subscription. Okay, so eco has registration requirements because it's part of ICANN, it looks like. Alright, that gives us a very good idea. And even if for $22 for a premium, I might just buy that one. That's crazy, a $22 premium. You don't see a lot of those Greencraft.art. It just sounds nice too, doesn't it? I'm going to leave that up and come back to this. But I think we can call this video done. For $100, 1 year, is it going to let me just buy 1 year? Anyway, whatever it ends up being, $100, $200, that's fantastic for those 2 domains. For every 2 years on top of that. So, yeah. So let's say that's our domain. And I'm not sure what even led us to this, but probably because I was looking at the temporary link here and thinking the next step that I would do is probably go ahead and grab the domain and then connect that, which we can look at in the future. That process is very easy. We can even do that at the end of the next video just to show you kind of how it works. Very simple to do. Once you buy the domain, a lot of people get stumped and don't know how to connect it with their website, with their code. It's very easy. The copy we'll save for next time, and just a couple of little tweaks that I want to show you the difference between editing your HTML on your website once you have a basic structure like this with AI, doing it with the code by yourself in Notepad+, then doing it in tandem with the AI. So it's actually teaching you as you go, and I find that's the most useful way to do it, because I actually learn things. It's not just do this, do that, and I'm just like robotically doing what it tells me to do. I'm actually trying to understand, like, what is it having me do and why. And I've gotten good enough now where I can tell when, especially ChatGPT is terrible for this, it'll have you do changes in your HTML and it'll get confused and hallucinate. It'll mix in things from other conversations and it's just a mess sometimes. Now I've gotten good enough that I can spot when it's trying to do that. And I'm like, hey, what you just provided to me is, quite frankly, bullshit. And please don't waste my time and send me on some wild goose chase trying to update something or change my HTML and no better off an hour later. I don't want that. I'm getting better at spotting when it's feeding me BS, and then I just tell it, no, you're wrong. Or I just flip over to Claude. Better to just use Claude and make your changes there. But yeah, we'll do that next time. So make sure to tune in for that last one, because it's going to be probably a bit of a longer episode, but I want to wrap up in that one and have our fully developed website, domain acquisition, connection of the domain, copy all refined, everything tested, working the way we want it to, tested on mobile as well. And then once we're happy with it, we're going to use that to inform our social media, business cards, sales sheets, statements of work. Everything is going to stem from that portfolio. The website is going to give you an ability to launch pad off of it and develop the business for real, because it's a lot more difficult of a sell when you show up to a place or you start talking to recyclers or whatever it is that you want to do. If I want to go see and talk to the people who make these or who handle them or who recycle them or who sell them, then I want to at least have some credibility to say, here's the project, here's what I'm working on, don't take my word for it, check out my website. It explains everything perfectly. So that's the main goal of all this. It's not just for fun to say, oh, I created a business and I have my own website. It's more, what can I then use that for to leverage actual work and actual contracts and actual product, right? This source material that's integral to the whole business. How can I use the website and the domain to establish some credibility and authority in the space to get a deal or a contract? We're going to look at that next time. You can use this stuff to write an actual business proposal, and maybe if we have time, we'll do that as well. That's another area where Claude especially shines, is helping you come up with those documents, usually rendered as a PDF, and have a nice repository full of PDFs of all kinds of different things that you might need ahead of time. That way, whenever you get some business, you're not scrambling to, oh no, how do I write an invoice? How do I write a contract? I don't know how to do any of these things. And you got to scramble, and if it's a bid of some kind, maybe you'll lose it. Do some mock scenarios with pretend clients, or do an exercise with your kids or mom. Just make them the client and go through the whole process with them. My business partner and I, we do these sort of like role-playing scenarios all the time. We give avatars to our clients. We call them by name. We invent a character and give them a name, and then we're selling to that person because that's our ideal client. So we want to sell to the Maggies of the world or to the Jones. It gives a clear picture of who we're selling to or we're working with, or who our clients are, or who our partners are in this case, right? So there's a lot involved I'm still very much in the thick of it. There's so much to learn. And everybody's got their own opinion. Everybody who's been successful in entrepreneurship thinks they've cracked the code and have a rhyme and riddle to how it's done. It's just not like that. It's an uphill battle. It's a long and winding road. And it's an individual path more than anything. It's not like someone can just tell you, oh, these people that try to be like business doctors, I don't agree with that. Unless you can actually sit down and organically go through all the details with the founder of the business or the CEO, you're not going to get a real sense of what's going on in that business, let alone be able to help them. It's not just numbers. There's people, there's lives, there's salaries involved, right? There's debt, liability, legal stuff. There's a lot of implications. It's not just, I'm going to run a business and that's good. If you want to do that, then I would suggest you sell your services or products as a freelancer in the private market. Maybe you don't sell a service, maybe you sell a private members association or a mastermind group. It's a different kind of freelance. Find the best option that works for you. I like having different options that I can pivot from one to the next depending on who or what I need to be. In the world of business, like it or not, you're going to be wearing masks and playing roles, and that's just the way it is. That's what a position is all about. You're in a position, and you're staying in that position for the length of your contract. As a freelancer, you're more flexible. You can come and go as you please. You set your own hours, but you also have your own overhead to worry about and your own clients to find and your own finances to figure out. Entrepreneurship doesn't have the security and safety blanket of traditional employment, but even traditional employment doesn't have that safety net anymore. If you think that you won't be laid off or cut if it meant the survival of that company, you'd probably be wrong, because a lot of companies wouldn't think twice about cutting you if it meant preserving the rest of the company and especially their salaries. Something to think about. Anyway, we're going to bring it all home and possibly write a business proposal, but more so put a pin in this business and feel good and confident about moving forward with it now that we've put the steps in place to create some semblance of branding and a business identity. Right? Whether it's your expert voice, my Aura Gifts, this new one here, Greencraft, there's a sense of identity in the business that you don't have to think too hard about what is this company and what do they do. If your hero section can't clearly demonstrate that within just a few lines when people arrive at your landing page, you need to change that, and that needs to be updated. I've been guilty myself of being too wordy and having friends and colleagues say, you know what, that's a bit much. When people's attention span these days are like a fly. So probably best to keep it short and concise and just grab people's attention. It doesn't have to be wordy. It just has to be punchy and effective. And that's what we're going to try to do. Thanks again for watching. See you next time, and take care.